All right, it is Thursday. We are rocking and rolling on another episode of the Investor Guys podcast. And Bill and I are both excited because Christmas is right around the corner. It is Saturday here. So it is 2 days away. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve, and then we've got Christmas. And I think everybody, most of the people in the Western world are excited this time of the year, at least to get the warm and fuzzies. So Bill and I are in that same mode. So excuse us, a little overly happy, and we're always happy. But so Merry Christmas to everybody before we forget. It's coming up. Yeah. And we have got a show that we kind of didn't complete on Tuesday. We were talking about improving your rental values, and we were going to talk about property management, but we got off on all the different great, easy things that you can do to improve the value of your home. And a lot of it was just appearance. The value of your rental, not the value of your home, but one and the same, I guess, depending.
Applies to both, yeah.
Today, we are going to talk about more along that vein, but we want to talk about property management. We started talking about property management in the last segment of our last show. We want to give that some more attention, because a property manager seriously can make or break you. And if you have been a real estate investor for any period of time, you have property managers that you love and you wish you could just clone and use for every single one of your markets. And you've had horror stories with property managers, and it comes with the territory. Don't let that scare you off, because here's one of the things that the horror stories have taught me, and they've taught Bill and they've taught everybody else, is they've taught us what to look out for when we're looking for another property manager. Will everybody be 100% the way we want them to be? No, but that's just the way the world is. A good property manager will work with us. They will adjust what they're doing to make us happy. A property manager that doesn't want to do it our way doesn't want our business. So just find somebody who does. What did you have? I know you had an article actually.
I have an article, but first let me wish you and your family a Merry Christmas. It has been a wonderful year to be with you, and we'll have a couple more shows before New Year's, but Merry Christmas.
Yes, this is our
you and Violet and Charisma and your extended family. I don't know the boys, but Merry Christmas to them as well.
And to you as well. And I know you've got your son in from school.
Yep.
Is your son also going to be coming down for Christmas too? Or?
No, he's because he is working at an Amazon distribution center. He is working.
Oh, okay.
And he's only been there. He's been there less than a year, so he's a low man on the totem pole in the management team. So he's working, and so not going to be able to come down. But Bryce is home from Oklahoma, and of course Pierce is here anyway as a sophomore in high school. So they will be here with Christmas with me this year, which I'm excited about. And then later on the afternoon of Christmas Day, they'll go over to their grandparents and have Christmas over there with their grandparents and their moms. So going to be a great year. And we're trying to get some Christmassy weather here. It's cooled off. We're in the getting down into the low 40s, high 30s at night, but we're still getting up to 68, 70, 72 during the day. It's a really cool time of year to be here.
Going off here too, it was high 70s this morning when I was out there. A little bit
very cool.
Getting that Christmassy Florida weather here.
Yeah. So there was a great article that came out. One of the reference sites I go to regularly. Been doing it for years, all the way back 8, 9, 10 years ago when I was doing the radio show. This is a site that I would go to. It's called New Wire, and it's just a great real estate investment news site, and just real estate in general news site. And they had an article about how to get extra value out of your property manager. Now, on the last show, we had talked about making sure you get a quality property manager. And one of the ways that you can do that is search for the designation CCIM. That is a professional designation that a property manager can acquire. It is a 2-year associate's degree program. They put them through a lot to be able to get that designation, but it gives them an incredible background education to be able to be a high quality property manager. So that's one thing we always look for is CCIM. Doesn't mean that you can't get a good property manager and them not be a CCIM, but you're improving your odds greatly when you do that. Now, one of the things that a great property manager is going to do is a great property manager is going to help you stay out of any legal issues, because rules and regulations and laws regarding rental real estate change almost daily. They change just constantly. And when they do that, we're not always in the loop on what has changed. Good property managers are on that. So let's, especially if you're a first-time landlord, keep in mind that tenant screening is a really in-depth, lengthy, complicated process. And it's one of the areas that people can get themselves in trouble with the law, and if they're not versed in that area. And so you don't want to end up, one, with a bad tenant, and then somebody's constantly paying late rent, somebody that's going to damage your property. Now, when you partner up with a good property manager, that's how I look at my property manager. They're a team member. They're a partner in my company. They may not have any equity, but I look at them as a partner nonetheless. So you'll feel a lot more confident knowing that you've got good quality tenants. That's their main job, is to get us a good quality tenant. And that the rent's going to be coming in on a regular basis. Now, what you and I focus on is government housing. So we don't have to worry about the rent coming in on time. It comes in on time because it comes from the wealthiest landlord on the planet, United States federal government. We love that stuff.
We're up on a break, but we've got more when we get back. And we're back, and we're talking about the value of a good property management for your investment rental property. A couple of things that Bill was getting to, I'm going to beat him to the punch. If we have a good property manager who is in tune with our strategy. So Bill has mentioned that we do a lot of Section 8 and government housing. So if we have a property manager that understands that system, understands that process, they're going to be aware of changes. There's a lot of local programs that are specific to just that local market that may not be a general Section 8 or HUD program. They're going to be aware of that. They're going to be interfacing with the caseworkers and the management and everything else for the local HUD, local Section 8, local affordable housing office, whatever they're calling it in that particular market. They are in tune with it. They know exactly what they're doing. And it's not just for Section 8. I've had college rentals before, and I've had property managers that were in tune with that specific demographic, because that was primarily who was renting these units were college students. So they were aware of different programs that the school offered. They were aware of different rental support programs, everything else that was going on for that specific market, that specific school, that specific set of clients that were going to be coming into our properties. And it's the same thing. If you've got military housing, for example, if you're in a market where you've got a lot of military housing, you want a property manager that understands that dynamic so that they are in touch with your tenants and the programs that are going to help their tenants and the things that are going to affect your tenants. A lot of times when you have military housing, one of the things that could affect your rental is they could be called up to duty last minute. Now, usually they've got some sort of a schedule. They're based someplace, but they could be called to duty. They could be called to ship out to someplace else. In that particular case, you have to cancel your lease. That's just part of the process. Don't get upset. That's part of having military housing. Understanding that and having a property manager who understands that and who can put somebody back into place to fill that as quickly as possible is key. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and I'm sure Bill does this too, I like property managers that put their money where their mouth is. They guarantee the tenant. They guarantee the tenant for 6 months. They guarantee the tenant for 8 months. They guarantee the tenant for 12 months, whatever it is. If that tenant moves out, they will replace that tenant within 30 days with another tenant that will at least complete the period of time that the previous tenant did not complete. So I want someone who's going to guarantee, who's going to put their money where their mouth is, and say, hey, I am a great property manager, and this is how I'm proving it to you. This is how I am showing you that I am going to be the one that you want to continue to use.
Yep. And you mentioned military housing, which is an absolutely fabulous segment in the rental market. Now, one of the things that happens is you don't ever have to worry about your rent being paid on time, because the base commander will, if for some reason you don't get paid, all you have to do is notify base commander and you will get paid promptly. And the people that are living in military housing, they're not living on the base, they understand that. They're not about to get in trouble because they didn't get their rent paid on time. So that is our concession. So what their concession is, you're going to get paid, you're going to get paid promptly. Our concession is you get transferred, you get called, shipped off somewhere, or you simply get a base transfer. You got no issues getting out of your lease. And typically base housing, they're obviously aware of the fact that this military person has been either shipped somewhere for active duty overseas, or they've been transferred to another base. And so they will help get that next tenant in there just as much as the property manager does. So it is a terrific, and of course you're doing a service to our military, which is always, in my opinion, a great thing to do. They protect us like crazy. They're underpaid. They don't get near the benefits that they should. Once you become a veteran, illegal aliens who are crossing into our country illegally get better treatment than our veterans do. So when we have an opportunity to help out a veteran, we'd love to be able to do that. And government or military housing is a great way to be able to do that.
What Bill is talking about is every single military base has a housing office. That housing office is responsible for placing their soldiers either in housing on the base or helping them find off-base housing. And that housing office works with property managers that provide those properties. And again, if your property manager knows this, they're interfacing with that person, then they know on a first name basis. If they've got an opening coming up next month, the housing office already knows about it. They've already got somebody lined up to go in there, because there's always a shortage of housing on military bases. The same as Section 8, there's always a housing shortage at every single military base. So something to definitely consider. Rents aren't guaranteed by the government. More or less, they are. What Bill was saying was all you have to do is call the base commander, or you don't even have to call the base commander. You can call their commanding officer. And you shouldn't do that. The property manager should do that. Just let them know, I've got one of your guys, he's a month behind on rent already. They will definitely speak to them, especially if they're an officer. There is a part of the code of conduct of the military. It's called behavior not becoming an officer and a gentleman, and not paying your rent, not paying your bills, being a certain type of person or not being a certain type of person violates that code of conduct. And their officer will speak to them, and they will make sure that it's taken care of. You might even get a phone call back from the officer letting you know that they had a conversation and they're going to get it taken care of the next week or whatever the situation is. We are already up on another break, so we're going to take a break, and we have got more. See you in just a minute. And we are back for our third and final segment of this show on property management. I'm going to let you go because I talked an awful lot on that last.
Oh, no. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's talk about the value that a property manager is going to have, not just to our property, but to us, because it's not just about the dollar. It's about the frustration level, and about not being on the phone all the time, and about not having to answer emails and everything else. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I spend more time with my property managers catching up on how they're doing, how their kids are. This time of year, wishing them happy holidays, Merry Christmas, because rarely are we having to have conversations about what's going on with the property. when I present them with an empty property, if they're coming on and this property's coming online with us as a new property, I'm going to let them know a month, 6 weeks in advance. Hey, this is when this one's going to be available. They can start processing application, looking for who's out there. And what we want to do, and this is one of those things that saves us an incredible amount of time. It saves us a great amount of energy. And as you mentioned, it also saves us a lot of frustration. Going through all of that application stuff, I don't want to do that. I want to be finding more property. And so they're terrific for doing that. And look, they want to make sure that we get the best tenant possible because it affects us getting them more property to put put tenants in. And so our property manager inherently wants to do a good job for us. I always try to give them the benefit of the doubt. I just lay out on the front end, here's what I'm looking for. Now, they're going to tell you about certain things that they have to be careful about so that they stay on the right side of the law and so that we stay on the right side of the law. And discrimination is a big one when you say certain things. Now, we talked the last show about felons, people with criminal records, especially felony records. That is not a protected class. At least it isn't yet. If Pelosi has her way, they will be by the end of the day. But just if they're not yet, so we can say, hey, look, if somebody's got drug convictions, sex offender convictions, those kind of things, and just I don't want them as a tenant, and they can actually screen that out. They can ask, and they can ask for permission to do a criminal background check. You can ask for that. A lot of states, you can just flat out do it. But if your state has a no criminal background check, you can ask for permission. You'll want to go through your real estate attorney to make sure that you have the proper waiver form for that. You can ask for permission to be able to run the background check, and either they agree or they don't agree for you to do that. And if they don't agree, you have the right to pass on them becoming a tenant. Obviously, if they don't want you to look at their criminal background, there's something in there they don't want you to see. The fact that they have a criminal background in and of itself is an issue. So your property manager can help you stay out of that time-consuming, frustrating, bang your head on the wall kind of stuff of sifting through all these tenants to find the right tenant for our property. That's the huge thing. And then, of course, they're going to handle anything that happens on an ongoing basis from a maintenance issue. You're going to get a call from time to time where somebody calls and says, I have a light that's not working. Can you send an electrician out and fix it? And they're going to get out there and find out that it's not working because a bulb is blown. I had literally had that this week, not with a property manager and a tenant, but with an inspector on one of the properties that said, you got 2 rooms where the lights aren't working. And I went, well, what's going on in your opinion? What do you think? Well, I don't know. I really couldn't check it. They didn't have bulbs in the fixture. I was like, as an inspector, maybe you should put a light bulb in your packet when you go into a house so that you can screw it into a light and go, okay, this light works or it doesn't work. It just doesn't have any bulbs in it. But no, it was like, I can't verify whether this fixture is good or not. Well, likelihood is that it is. Property manager can handle all that kind of stuff because those are the kind of things that you just kind of go, could have had a B8, but no, I'm dealing with an inspector that, so these property managers handle a ton of that stuff for us, keep us on the right side of the law, keep our property on the right side of the law, help us get what we perceive to be an ideal tenant for us and what we're trying to achieve.
And I always make sure on a number of my different places in different ways. So my Section 8 in Ohio, for example, Section 8 provides a refrigerator and they provide a stove. So this doesn't matter. but my rentals in other markets, I have an addendum in my lease that says you're renting the unit, you're not renting the stove, you're not renting the refrigerator. If there's other appliances, and you're not renting the washer and the dryer. These are things that I'm lending to you. You are responsible for them. So the refrigerator works now, the stove works now, washer and dryer works now. If they stop working while they're in your possession, you're responsible for repairing them or replacing them. If they're not happy with that, then no problem. I will have the property manager come in there, or the property manager says, I'll have somebody come in there and I will have those items removed and you can use your own. That way, we're not sending somebody out to replace, compressors on refrigerators. We're not sending people out to replace elements on stoves. A lot of times it's wear and tear, overt wear and tear from the tenants that causes these problems. Same thing with the plumbing. I asked them to have the tenant inspect all of the plumbing when they first move in. All the pipes work, all the drains work, let the water run for a while, flush the toilet, make sure it works. Now, if in a month or so they're calling and the toilet is stopped up, it's not my responsibility because it was working when you took the property. It turns out that their daughter flushed a Barbie head or their son put a transformer in there, and whatever the situation is, now the toilet doesn't work. That isn't our responsibility. That is going to be a cost that we will incur if we do not have that verbiage in our rental contract. And we need to make sure that our property managers place that in there. And some property managers are great about having that already. Others are like, oh, hey, that's a great idea. If you don't have that in there and they've got a 2-year-old who likes to throw things in the toilet, you're going to be paying for the plumber to go out there every single time to snake that toilet out. If you've got somebody who throws things into the sink and doesn't turn the garbage disposal on or puts the wrong stuff in the garbage disposal, you're going to be paying for that plumber to go out. If you've got someone who's just rough on appliances, they do laundry day and night, you're going to be sending somebody out to maintain that washer and that dryer. Again, there are things that are our responsibility, absolutely, and we need to take care of those. There are things that are the responsibility of the tenant, and we need to have that spelled out clearly in our lease. I also personally don't like smoking, so I have in my lease that we don't rent to smokers. So if you want to smoke, I don't even want you smoking outside, to be honest, because if you're smoking outside, you're bothering other tenants of mine who are probably not smokers as well. So if you want to smoke, please find another place to live. I don't hate you, but I don't want the cigarette smoke around the building, in the building, and around the other tenants in the building. So,
And I want to make one comment. I know we got to wrap up because we're on time here. However, make sure that you have a candid conversation with your property manager, because you're going to find in different parts of the country, appliances are looked at completely different. Here in Texas, we always have on rental property, we will have a stove, we'll have a dishwasher, garbage disposal. A refrigerator locally is considered a personal item, but yet a stove and a microwave and dishwasher are not. So those will always go in, and we're not putting in refrigerators. You'll find other parts of the country where more of those things, like I'm in a market where a stove is considered a personal item. That boggles my mind, but no different than us considering a refrigerator being out here in Texas, because that makes me scratch my head. But you want to find out what locally is the right thing to do in that market, what that market expects. And if I go above and beyond, does that really help me in? Do I get extra rent because I've got the appliances in there, because I have a refrigerator? Do I get an extra $20 a month or whatever because there's a refrigerator in there? In some markets you will, in some markets you won't. You need to know what that is. Your property manager can keep you abreast of all of those things. I got a call literally yesterday from one of our property managers that said, hey, do you know that in April you have a rent increase coming up? And I went, no. They said, yeah, we've just been notified that this is on federal housing. We just got a notice that there's going to be an increase in April. We don't know exactly the dollar amount yet, but it is coming. And I was like, well, what do I need to do to make sure I get it? And they were like, nothing. I'm just letting you know, because it is a federal program, it goes into place automatically. And I was like, man, I love getting calls like this. Call me anytime.
And again, understanding your market and having a property manager that understands your market is great. One of the things that I just mentioned in Cleveland for Section 8, they will provide a stove and they will provide a refrigerator to the tenants. The Section 8 housing department will do that. When the tenants move out, they don't take those stoves, they don't take those refrigerators. There is a set of brothers, they're Jamaican guys, they buy those from me. Dirty, everything. They come, they pick them up, they buy them. It's not a lot of money, but they buy them, they clean them up, they refurbish them, they resell them. So when I have an apartment in Cleveland that I'm going to rent out that's not Section 8, okay, I will actually go to those guys and I will buy a stove and I will buy a refrigerator that's been cleaned up and refurbished from them to throw it into one of my units to make it more appealing to the next tenants. Again, that's if it's not a Section 8, because in Cleveland, Section 8 includes the stove and they include the refrigerator. But understanding how those dynamics work together is going to make it easier for you. And again, I don't personally call these guys. My property manager does. They know about this relationship. My property manager understands that that washer and that dryer, sorry, that refrigerator and that stove that's there, that doesn't go with the tenant. The tenant doesn't take it. They can if they want, but they don't typically take it. So as soon as they do the vacate notice, they call those two gentlemen and they send somebody over to pick those items up. If I need one for a property that's going to not be a Section 8, and I do have rentals that are not Section 8 in Cleveland, then they call those gentlemen. They say, hey, can you get me such and such refrigerator? Can you get me such and such stove? So understanding things is going to be the benefit of you pulling less of your hair out and less of it just falling out on its own. It makes it so much easier. Just having a little bit of experience, having somebody to talk to who can tell you, this is the way it is, this is the way it goes. And those are your property managers, because this is their job. This is what they do every day, day in and day out. They know it. Final thoughts before we get out of here?
Hey, it's a great segment of the business to be involved in, rental property passive income. If you're not doing it, you should be doing it. It is something that is going to continue to grow. We are entering into a massive growth curve on rental property that's going to go on for several more years. And so something you should take a look at, passive income. It's fabulous.
Real quick thing I'm just going to add really quick. And this is something that I have not seen anywhere. This is just my own personal prediction. Okay. There are a lot of millennials that have not left the nest yet. I predict that they are going to be doing that within the next 1 to 3 years. Okay. So in addition to all the changes that we're seeing right now with rental properties and everything else, expect to see a lot more millennials coming out of their parents' basements, out of their parents' attics, whatever it is where they are, and looking for places of their own as they are kind of forced to have to grow up. I think that's going to be a whole nother segment that we're going to be able to tap into coming up soon. So Bill's like, eh.
I know, I hate when that happens. I'm yet to be forced to grow up. So
yeah,
hope it doesn't happen to me.
So I'm holding off too. Unfortunately, I can't live in my parents' basement. So
there be you. So,
all right. Have a good one, Bill. Happy
holidays, brother.
I will call you on Christmas and just see how you're doing. Take care.
Thank you, brother. See you later.